some use today of jail tools and having meetings and encouraging business leaders to get employees tested, and it's saying that we need a 70% vaccination rate to end these mass lockdowns. Do you stand by that? Is that the conversations that are going on behind closed doors?
Well, what we need is people to be vaccinated. You know, this is undoubtedly a race. At the moment, we've got about 2 to 3% of our population fully vaccinated, and around 20% of our population have received one vaccination. But our path through this pandemic is via, one, the successful rollout of the Commonwealth's vaccination program, and secondly, alternative quarantine. Now, we've got the path through with alternative quarantine, and we'll get that built as quickly as we possibly can. In terms of vaccination, I'll ask Professor Cheng to speak in more detail in terms of herd immunity and the expert public health advice. But 10% fully vaccinated is better than 2. 20% is better than 10. You know, the greater the level of our population that is fully vaccinated, actually, the greater the population of our population that gets one dose and then fully vaccinated, every step you take makes it easier for public health to provide advice in terms of easing of restrictions, how we deal with outbreaks. That's what we've seen right around the world and in other jurisdictions. Other major jurisdictions have got populations that are vaccinated well above, fully vaccinated, well above 50%. So this is a race. You know, the virus doesn't sleep. It mutates. And the Delta and the Kappa variants that we are dealing with this year are 50% more infectious than the virus we were dealing with last year. So this is a race, and we need to get as many people vaccinated as quickly as possible. There's been some very good discussions with the federal government in terms of additional vaccines for our state site, additional Pfizer vaccines for our state sites. But we also agree with the AMA here in Victoria that our GPs can do double what they're doing right now, and we're having ongoing discussions with the Commonwealth. So the answer to your question is that every step up helps in terms of the public health response to the pandemic, but I get Professor Cheng to talk in more detail.
70% though, is that the magic number to end mass lockdown?
Professor Cheng's the appropriate person to ask that question. The point I'm making, and the evidence and the experience worldwide, is the greater the level of your population that is vaccinated, the better it is in terms of easing restrictions, dealing with outbreaks, undoubtedly. And that's what we are seeing in terms of the transmission of the virus. Vaccination is our pathway through this, and right now, only 2 to 3% of our population is fully vaccinated, and we need to get that number up as quickly as possible because this is a race. In terms of 60, 70, 80%, it's appropriate that Professor Cheng answers that question.
So there isn't one single magic number, and the reason is that we vaccinate for 2 reasons. One is the direct protection that the person gets from getting seriously unwell, and then there's the indirect protection about passing it on. And the herd immunity issue is about indirect protection, but obviously we're still vaccinating for direct protection. The reason why there's not one single magic number is that it depends on who it is. So we've correctly, I think, made the decision that we're starting with more elderly people, people who are more vulnerable at getting severe disease, to try and directly protect them. But they actually don't contribute much to indirect protection. People in nursing homes don't have many contacts in the community, for example, so they don't contribute much to that sort of herd immunity, but people who are younger, who are much more social and have many more interactions tend to. So that's why there isn't that magic figure. But I think, as the Acting Premier said, and I think the experience from other countries shows that, once you get up to much higher coverage rates, then it makes a whole lot of things easier, that, we may not need the intensity of restrictions, or we may be able to, only do contact tracing without having to do other things quite to the same level. And that's the benefit of vaccination. So every vaccination does count, just as every test does count.